My name's Jay. I'm a training specialist at EBSCO, and I do training for schools, for public libraries, and for TAFEs as well. So that's my main areas that I train in. And in this session, we are going to talk about some advanced strategies within Explora. So in the previous session, we spoke more around the basic overview of Explora, and now we're just sort of progressing to some additional techniques and strategies we can use. So I've got here the main objectives of the session. So by the end, you'll be able to describe and navigate the Explora user interface, refine results by Lexile reading levels, construct and apply advanced search strategies, utilize the subject thesaurus, use the dashboard to save content, and locate help, support, and promotional materials. So just to recap on what Explora is, so it is available to you as an interface, and it's specifically designed for schools, and we do have public libraries that use it as well. So its main purpose is to offer a more modern experience that is mobile friendly, so it's easily used on tablets, on Chromebooks. It's efficient, and it's meant to be a less intimidating way for students to begin their searches and to get accustomed to using databases. So it sort of enables all your different databases to be searched from your databases from EBSCO, that is, to be searched together in combination in the one interface. And just to really quickly recap again, the homepage has a lot of different options on it that's available, with the ability to browse different categories, different popular topics, and to explore some key topics and key areas that students would be studying in. So you can see broad categories like arts and literature, biography, business, current events, geography, and so forth. So on that note, I'm going to go across now back to the Explora home screen, and I'm going to just point out some additional search options that are available. And I'm actually going to recap with just a quick basic search. So I'm just going to type in climate change as my search. You know, users can use the autocomplete that's available in the drop-down to, you know, immediately launch into maybe a more detailed search. So if they could search climate change, but they could also search, you know, climate change or global warming and so forth. So there are a few options there. I'll just continue with my search on climate change. Just one moment. I think I may have timed out of my screen. I'll just quickly try and sign back into my VPN. I'll just be a moment. So I run this search on climate change, and I guess what I want to point out is on the all filters section to the left, just underneath the search box, I've got all these different filters that are available to me. And one filter in particular I like to point out is the Lexile range. So the Lexile range is really a way to basically limit the result according to a particular reading level. So if you've got students in a particular year level and you want to make sure that the content would be easily understandable by that reading level, or that user group, you know, that grade level or age level, you can go into the Lexile range. And as a general rule, the higher the Lexile range, the more difficulty in the text, in the reading of the text. But we actually have some more detailed guidance around that. So I've got a slide here that actually talks a bit more about the Lexile reading levels, and it does show you in a table, depending on the grade level and the age level, what Lexile band would be most suitable. So there's the current Lexile band. The stretch, I guess, is just sort of indicating that there would be students who are below that average or above that average. And so that's the stretch, to encompass that. There is a Lexile frequently asked questions page on our EBSCO Connect site. So I will send out this slide. So if you do want to find out more about Lexiles, you can access that. But students can come in here and actually, depending on their reading level, actually filter the result. And the teachers can also limit and maybe share some search results with a certain limit in place. So I'm just going to go back to that table. Let's say we've got year 9s and 10s. So it's around 14 to 16-year-olds. The current Lexile for that would be around 960 to just above 1,000 and 1,100, I guess. So if we go here, using that information, you can see here, let's say around here, 900 to about 1,000 and 100, that will cater to our grades 9 and 10. We can tick that option and apply that filter. And so now the results that I'm seeing, this subset would be the ones that would be most easily read by that age group. So it factors in their reading ability, and what you could then do from there, you could share this search. So in the past, in Explora, the old Explora, you couldn't actually share the link in the address bar because it wasn't a persistent link, but it is a persistent link now. So you could basically share this link to your students. They would be taken to this result list on climate change, but it could be on virtually anything as long as you apply that filter, and you could then share this and they could start to go through those results and read through those different articles. So that's one way to access Lexiles. Another way to access Lexiles is not just at the level of refining the results, but at the beginning of the search itself. So I'm just going to refresh my screen. And there is a field code that can be used for Lexiles, and it's represented by ALX. So what I could do, for example, knowing what the Lexile band levels are, so you can see here about 900 to 1,100 would apply to my year 9s and 10s. Let's say I'm looking more, maybe a bit lower than that, maybe year 7s. So let's say, if I look at maybe 900 to 1,000, what I could do then is go 900 to 1,000, and then use an AND Boolean and combine that with a keyword. So let's say we're looking at articles about Antarctica, and then I can run my search. And so now these results kind of factor in that Lexile range. So that's just another way you can employ this Lexile strategy to narrow results by Lexile range. And you can still kind of use additional filters on top of that if you wanted to. So we've got things like the date range. So I can easily narrow down by past 12 years, past 5 years. Let's say I want to narrow by past 10 years. And I can apply that. And I'll keep reducing the set of results. Content provider just means users can actually just narrow down according to the specific database. So these are the 3 main databases you've got, employed in here, or these are the results coming from these 3 databases. And I might just want to narrow down to, say, Points of View Reference Center and apply that filter. And it shows me the 9 results specific to Points of View Reference Center. And at any point, if I want to remove these filters, at the very top on the All Filters pop-up here, I just go Clear All and then apply again, and it goes back to the original set of results. Okay, so that was Lexiles. If there are any questions about Lexiles, feel free to let me know. Now, The next thing I want to do is I'm just going to rerun a search again. Let's say I'm running a search on climate change, but it's very broad. And I might be dealing with lots and lots of different results. And in this case, I'm dealing with over 200,000 results. What I might want to do instead is go into the advanced search. So maybe for your older students, or as well as for teachers as well, there is the advanced search just underneath the search box to the right of it. We can click on that. And it carries across my current search terms, but I can easily then add some further terms and qualify this search further. So I started off with climate change, but I might want to search climate change or something else. And you can see in the drop down, when I clicked onto this search row, it already immediately started giving me the other options. So for example, I might, select this one. It's got a lot of different terms that I can utilize. So it will broaden the search to encompass any of those. So the or really broadens the search. And then below that, in the second row, I can combine perhaps using and to then add some precision to the search. So I'm going to actually look at this within the context, for example, of Australia. Now, I do want to point out this and Boolean, I can click on it and it can become an or Boolean or a not Boolean. So the and Boolean would, of course, mean I can combine these two search terms together. The or means I'm looking at these interchangeably, so it will expand the results. And the not is another way to reduce the result set by indicating that I'm looking at these broadly, but I want to omit, something from the search. So if I didn't want to look at a particular country, like I could say not United States, it would remove, United States from the search. So that's another way to strategize that. But I'm just going to actually instead use the and. It's probably more common to use and instead and indicate that I'm looking within Australia. Now, as a default in the advanced search, I see 3 rows, but I can always expand and add rows. And I think there's about up to 11 rows you can add. So if the student is keen, they can keep adding layers to the search. Now, to the right of these rows, I do want to point out there is the fields available. So as a default, it's going to search across all the possible fields that are listed here. And if I want to, I could instead indicate, I just want to look at a specific field. So if I'm looking at climate change, maybe I just want to match that term back to the title of an article rather than any fields that could be included. Or, maybe I want to tie it back to the name of a journal and so on. Or maybe I want to tie it back to the abstract. So there are different ways I can tie it back. And, teachers, if they know the ISBN or ISSN, they might want to reduce the set to those kind of codes, or the library staff if they're looking for some content on here. But typically students, they may stick to all fields, but, you may want to also encourage them to explore things like what happens if I narrow down to title or to abstract? Does it change the kind of results I get? So for example, I could narrow this down to title. So it only finds these matches in the title. And likewise here, I might use Australia, only searching for that in the title of an article. And I then run my search and we can do some comparisons. So when I limit to title here, I've got 900 results that factor in these different terms within the context of Australia. And if I go back to my advanced search options again, it pops open for me. And this time I might indicate what happens if I then go back to all fields and run my search. And you might expect that the results will increase. So you can see it increases by a lot. Now there is another field that can be used, and that's the all text field. So what the all text field does is it looks at all these fields for a match, but it also looks within the full text and it looks within the entirety of a record as well. So not everything in the record is indexed. So it might not be captured. But if we do the all text, those things that aren't captured by the fields or, anything that's also captured in the full text of the article will also be found. It will look through everything basically relevant to that record and its full text. So if I click on all text and run my search, typically you'll get even more results. So this will be quite a few. So the results have increased by a little bit compared to when I look at all fields. So you can use this and maybe run some questions or activities with students and ask them how many results they get when they use this field versus another field. So that's kind of another thing I want to point out, the advanced search. And if I want to clear this current search, I can just go back to my Explorer logo and it will refresh my page. And then the next thing I wanted to point out is there's also the thesaurus. So in the advanced search, we have the thesaurus capability. So the thesaurus is basically just the controlled vocabulary, and it includes terms that are subject terms, and every article and ebook in the databases are assigned these subject terms to provide some meaning to what is included in the text. And it comes from a controlled vocabulary. So it's the wording and the strategies around it are very consistent across the board. And one way to unlock these subject terms and to see what subject terms are actually used is by running a search using the thesaurus. And that's what we're going to do now. So I'm going to run a search looking for Aboriginal Australians in art, but I'm going to use this via the thesaurus rather than via this search box. So I might just start off here. Again, I might just, let's say I was running a search. In fact, let's say I came in here and I ran a search on Aboriginal art. And so I haven't really added much to this search. And so I'll get different results, but as I go along, some of them might not be as specific, and some of them, might be Aboriginal in a very broader sense of the term. It might not be specific to Australia, although you do see some of these are specific to Australia. But what we can do is actually go into the advanced search and add some more precision. So I'm just going to actually remove the current search, and I'm going to scroll down. And I didn't point this out earlier, but there is the search options as well, where you can actually add some limiters to your search through the advanced search. But what I'm really interested in now is the thesaurus. So I'm going to look specifically, so there's two thesauruses that are included there's one that's specific to Australia New Zealand Reference Centre Plus, and that's what I'll look at because that would be more specific to Aboriginal art. The green thesaurus is coming from Green File. So there is a thesaurus there for students who are doing environmental studies as well. So something to point out there. But I'm going to look at this top one, Australia New Zealand Reference Centre Plus. And I'm going to start by looking at the term Aboriginal Australians. And it will then notify me if this is indexed as a subject heading, and it is. So I can see there it's available. If I click the drop down, it actually comes with a scope note. So it gives me a bit of definition of what this is. And I can then add that to my search. So then it populates at the very top here. But I want to add a second term as well. And that's just looking at art. And I can tick this option here for art. And if I expand again, it just tells me a definition of it and some instructions. And I can add that to my search as well. So here I've got Aboriginal Australians and art. And I can then run my search. Oh, apologies. Sometimes I'm just playing up for me. I'll try that again. Add that to my search. Okay, so these are my results now. And they look a little bit different compared to the results I had in my other search. So the thesaurus searching could be used in conjunction with just a typical search, and it can be used to compare. So it can unlock some other results and make them visible in a way that they may not have been visible if I just ran this search as a general broad search. And it can also add precision. So you can see there are only about 140 results, but these are going to be very accurate results. And typically when a term is assigned as a subject heading or a subject term, it indicates that it's a major part of that article. So these are going to show me results where these terms form a big part of what that article is about. Whereas sometimes if I just ran this as Aboriginal Australians in art, it could just show me results where it's just a little footnote, or it's only like a sort of small portion of that article. So that's why doing a subject term search using the thesaurus can just lead to some more precise results. So that was just a quick overview of the subject headings. And the last major thing I want to point out is the dashboard feature. So I've just gone back to my Explora homepage, and to the left-hand column, you can see that there is a dashboard, and this has kind of replaced the folder options that were in the previous version of Explora. So I can actually go into my dashboard under Overview, and it just gives us a little bit of information about this dashboard. So basically, even if I just start running a search right now, I can start to add things to my dashboard. So I might go back to my previous searches. So I'll go back to that previous one, Aboriginal Australians, and rerun that, for example. And I can basically using the bookmark tool, add items to my dashboard. But you'll notice that I have to sign into my EBSCO account if I want to keep the saved item forever. So at the moment, what I add to my dashboard only applies to this specific session. So these things that I've just saved now are only tied to the session. So if I don't sign in and I come back to Explora another day, I won't see these anymore. I won't see these saved items, and I won't see my search history either anymore. So what would be the best practice then is to either create an account if the student does not yet have one, or sign in. So I'll just click on that sign in option.
They have to sign in, Jay, through single sign-on, everyone.
Oh, so they already have single sign-on, so they'd already have access?
Yep.
Okay. Perfect then. I don't think I can sign in at the moment because I don't have the login. What I might just do is just quickly show you Explora through another method, just so I can show you how that functionality looks. So yeah, as Jim indicated, they'll be automatically signed into the My EBSCO account. So that's great. So they could just start adding things to their project. Sorry, I'm just getting into a version of Explora. So I'll just quickly sign in here just so I can kind of show you. And so because they're automatically signed into their personal account, whatever they add to their dashboard will be there the next time they come back into Explora. And so a good practice then is to, save items to Explora just to make sure that they can easily retrieve. So I'm having a bit of technical issue, but they can then easily retrieve from those saved items. And then if they're working on a particular assignment, that's when the projects option can be really useful. So for example, I've got a project here on Albert Einstein and Gallipoli. So I might have some upcoming assignments or research projects. And the minute I've got a new one, I click on new project and I type in the name. So let's say I'm doing a project on Aboriginal art. I can give it a due date as well and create that. And so I can now then go back and perform my searches. So here I am searching on Aboriginal art, and I can have a look through these. Maybe I'll go Aboriginal art and Australia, for example, just to narrow down some of these result sets. And I can save them, but I can also click on these three dots and there is the add to project option. So I go add to project, and in the drop down, I choose the relevant project, or if I haven't yet created one, there is the plus sign, the ability to create project at this level as well. And I select Aboriginal art and I can add it to my project. And the other way I can add to project is I can actually click on the title. Let's say I'm already investigating it. I'm already having a look through. Maybe I read the abstract just to see if this would work well as part of my research project. And if I'm happy to then save it and add to my project, that option does show up here as well. So I go add to project, Aboriginal art, and add now. And another way I can add to projects, so it's sort of available at every level, so they can always see it. So I could otherwise click on, say, the full text, and I may actually start reading through the entirety of the full text just to sort of get an idea if this will be relevant to me. And I can add to project, you know, if I want to keep up, go add to project and add it that way as well. And so when I'm ready, I've added a few items to my project. I can actually go back and go to my projects via my dashboard and go into the Aboriginal art project. And I can easily go back to these articles as well. And you'll notice I can just bookmark them broadly if I want to. And I can access my tools menu. So if I need to cite some of these articles, I can copy to a citation style, and there's 9 different citation styles here, including APA and MLA and Harvard Australian. So I can copy the citation. Now, I'm not sure if students are using like any sort of citation tool, but if they were, they can also bulk tick all these items in their project, go to export and actually export it to a citation tool. So if the older students are doing this, that can work for them, or even if the teachers as well are doing research projects, they can export to things like EndNote as well. So that's the projects functionality. In my dashboard, there is also the saved items. So anything I save more broadly using the bookmark tool would show up here. I'm having a little technical difficulty there. And also, if I run my searches, so my search history, my recent search history also shows up under my searches. And if I do want to save these search histories, I can click on the bookmark and that will store those search histories more broadly. And the last thing I've got is my viewed option. And that just shows me articles that I've recently viewed. So within this current session or basically within this session. And if they're not yet in my saved items, I can review them and save them, you know, before I sign out and add them to project if I need to. Okay, so that's basically everything I wanted to show. And just more broadly, I do want to point out Explora is kind of an ever-evolving platform. And so there are some features that are still on our roadmap. They're coming soon. So I'm not sure if you have an LMS, but there's going to be some integrations with LMS as well that will be available. There will also be the text-to-speech option that's coming along. And there'll be note-taking if for full text articles in PDF and for if you've got ebook views. And well, actually institutional branding is already there, but at the moment we don't really have the publication authority. So in the previous Explorer, there was a way to browse the publications, but that is coming soon. And there will be sort of the ability to browse images coming soon as well. And just really broadly, I will send in the slide deck. There are some help resources. The Quick Start Guide in particular could be really useful. It does provide some really good instructions around the different features of Explorer. So basic search, advanced search, the dashboard, and so on. And there are also some tutorials. So this one for high school users could be useful. And then Explorer does have Google Classroom and Google Drive integration. So there's a little help guide for educators and some FAQs about Explora. And there is also the promotion kit that's available on that link. And inside the promotion kit is a social media kit as well.